All right, so we're on 7.2. We're talking about the addition and subtraction formulas. We have sine of a sum, sine of a difference, cosine of a sum, cosine of a difference, tangent of a sum, and tangent of a difference. And these are the formulas for them, and they look really, really tough to remember. They're actually not that bad. Yeah, I like to sing a little song. You probably may have heard this song before, but here's the song. And the way it goes is, if you can remember sine and cosine, you can definitely remember tangent, right? So here's the song, the way it goes. Okay, so we're trying to remember the addition and subtraction formulas. The song goes like this: sine, cosine, cosine, sine, cosine, cosine, sine, sine. Again, it's kind of a dumb little song, but if you remember it, it helps you remember everything. Ready? Do it again. Sine, cosine, cosine, sine, cosine, cosine, sine, sine. Right? So if you remember that song, it tells you exactly how this works out. So, and sine starts with S, so we'll keep the same sign in between. Cosine does not start with S, so we'll have a difference in signs here. Okay? And then we just go ST, 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 and so forth. So sine of a sum, sine, cosine, cosine, sine, okay? And then cosine of a sum, cosine, cosine, pause for fun, sine, sine, right? So what we're going to do is we're actually going to prove a couple of these. The one that I first want to prove is this one right here. So I'm going to prove this one, and once I prove this one, the others kind of unfold. And I've got a little circle up here. So I've defined P naught, which is the point 1, 0, right? I define Q1 by looking at a string of length t, okay? So this guy will be equal to cosine of t, sine of t. That's the coordinates of that point, Q1. And then if this is t and this is s plus t. So this thing will equal cosine of s plus t, sine of s plus t, right? And then lastly, down here, if I have Q naught, this distance here, guys, is a negative s value. Okay, it's a negative s value. It's the length of s, but just negatively. And so the distance of that point will be cosine of negative s, comma, sine of negative s. But as we know, cosine is an even function. Cosine is an even function, so that's actually the same thing as cosine of s, and this is equal to, and then sine's an odd function, negative sine of s, just in case we're going to need it. Hint, hint. Okay? Okay, so we have Q naught there. We've got Q1, we've got P naught and P1, and then what we're going to do now is I want to look at the distances, and I want to compare kind of some distances. So I want to look at this distance here of that guy, that segment there, and that guy there. And would you guys agree that those distances are equal to each other? That is, the distance between P1 and P naught is the same as the distance between Q naught and Q1, okay? Or P naught and P1 is the same as the difference of Q naught and Q1. So what I'm saying is the distance between P naught and P1 is equal to the distance between Q naught and Q1, okay? So we know that's an equivalent statement. The distance between those two are the same. So then let's go through this process using the distance formula. Recall the distance formula, so we're going to have an equals here in the middle. That's that equals. Okay, we're going to have a square root. Okay, square root. We're going to have a plus in here. We're going to have some parentheses using the distance formula. Okay. And so what we do is we look at the distance between the x coordinates, we look at the distance between the y coordinates, and go for that. So first let's look at the distance between P1 and P naught. Okay, so we'll have, say, cosine, we'll do the x coordinates, this guy minus that guy squared, and then we'll have plus this guy minus that guy squared. So I'm going to write that here, so I'm going to write cosine of s plus t, and we're going to have minus 1 here. And then we're going to have sine of s plus t minus 0. So x minus x, y minus y, okay? Good so far. That's the distance between P naught and P1. Okay, and the other one I'm going to have the distance between Q1 and Q naught. I'm going to have the cosine of t here. I'll do this one minus this one. I have cosine of t minus cosine of negative s. And I'm going to have sine of t minus sine of negative s. Okay? So we got that. Now what I can do, guys, is I can square both sides, get rid of the radicals. So I'm kind of running out of room already. So I'm going to square both sides, and if I square both sides, these radicals go away. Hopefully everyone's okay with that. So I do want to leave this up here. I just don't want to erase it, or this stuff up here, I don't want to erase it. So it gets rid of this. And then I have some algebra to do. We're going to do some algebra here. So this will equal cosine squared of s plus t minus 2 cosine s plus t plus 1, that's that guy, plus this guy, plus sine squared of s plus t equals, if I square this guy out, okay, I'm going to get cosine squared of t minus 2 cosine of t cosine of negative s plus cosine squared of negative s, and then that's this one right here. Now I put this one and put it on this side still, so it'll be plus sine squared of t minus 2 sine t sine negative s, and then plus sine squared of negative s. Okay. So we should have something like that. So guys, you'll notice that I have a couple of things where I have some Pythagorean identities. So you'll notice that this guy right here and this guy make 1, right? And then 1 plus 1 is 2. So I'll have 2 minus 2 cosine of s plus t, right? Equals. And then over here, you'll notice I have sine squared plus cosine squared. That's a 1, right? And then over here I have sine squared and cosine squared. That's another 1, so we'll actually make that a 2, right? And then we'll have minus 2 cosine t cosine of negative s minus 2 sine t sine of negative s. Okay? All right. So if I look at this thing and I want to, suppose I solve here, so I subtract 2 from both sides. I'm just going to, without doing an extra step, I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. Okay, so subtract 2 here, subtract 2 here. Is everyone okay with that? Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide by both sides by negative 2. Who parties? Everybody parties. If I divide by negative 2, and that becomes a plus, doesn't it? Okay. All right. And I'm almost done. We know cosine of s is the same thing as cosine. Where do we have it? Cosine of negative s is the same thing as cosine of s. So I have cosine of s plus t equals cosine of s. It's s now because, again, it's an even function. Cosine t. And then sine of negative s is negative sine of s. So this will be minus sine s sine t. And that gives me that guy right there. Okay? So I did that one. Okay. Now let's look at the sine function. Now we're going to prove this guy. And we're going to prove this guy using this guy right here. Okay. Now what I have here over here is I have a note that says, note that sine of x is cosine of pi over 2 minus x, and cosine of x is pi over 2 minus x also. Okay. So cosine of x equals sine of pi over 2x minus x. Sine of x equals cosine of pi over 2 minus x. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to start here. So I know that sine, let me use blue. I know that sine of s plus t equals, well, sine of s plus t equals cosine of pi over 2 minus s plus t. So cosine pi over 2 minus the s plus t, right? X X in this case is s plus t. Put s plus t right here. Very good. Well, what do we know about this thing right here? Well, we do have a formula for that thing right there. We have this formula right here, correct? Now, before I use this, I'm actually going to interchange, though. I'm going to interchange. I'm going to say this is the same thing as cosine of pi over 2 minus s plus t, or excuse me, minus t. Excuse me, we got to shoot the minus sign. So I'm kind of going to see this as this guy minus that guy, okay? That guy minus that guy, all right? So if I look at it that way, let me put parentheses in here to make it a little bit nicer. We're going to use this formula. Now, if we have this one, we have this one, okay? These are almost interchangeable. Just put in negative value of t. Okay, so if I use this one here, according to this formula, cosine of s minus t, the first one minus the second one is cosine, cosine, sine, sine, different sign, okay? So this will equal, let me put the equals over here so I have a little more room. Cosine of pi over 2 minus s times cosine, 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 sine, sine, cosine of t plus sine of pi over 2 minus s times sine of t. Okay? All right, but what do we know? What do we know about cosine of pi over 2 minus s? Cosine of pi over 2 minus s is really just sine of s, cosine t, and sine of pi over 2 minus s is the same as cosine s.